friends, welcome to another episode of Dabbling with Dan. Today's episode I'm going to go ahead and show you how to change the oil and oil filter in a 2013 Honda Civic. My daughter asked me to do this video. So the first thing I'm going to do is drive the vehicle up on vehicle ramps. Now the only time you should use vehicle ramps is when you have a good solid surface. You don't want to use these on gravel because the weight of the vehicle can push these down and of course cause them to become unstable. So right now I have a perfect surface to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and drive the vehicle up on the ramps. Then I'm going to shut the vehicle off, and then I'm going to set the emergency brake. And then I'm going to go to the back of the vehicle and put a wedge behind the tire so that the vehicle can't roll backwards. So bear with me. While I'm here, I'm going to pop the hood open. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to put a wedge behind the tire. I just want to make sure you guys get a good view here, so I'm going to tilt my camera. So, on the 2013 Honda Civic, I've pulled my daughter's owner's manual to kind of go over how to change the oil in the oil filter. So the manual is back on the maintenance, page 272. It indicates run the engine until it reaches normal operating temperature, and then turn off the engine. Open the hood and remove the engine oil fill cap. So I should probably bring the camera up here for y'all so you can see this. So here are a couple things. Here's the engine oil fill cap, and as you can see there's some information on here. It says SAE-OW-20. That's the weight of the oil that we have to put back in here. Per instructions, it asks us to remove that. I'm going to set that down right there. And of course, this is the dipstick. It actually will tell you the level of oil and the condition that it's in. Now, this vehicle's mileage is right at 100,000. It's 99997 miles. So it's due. Now, the next step is remove the bolts on the undercarriage and remove the undercover. So that's what this is right here. And let me see if I can get this camera up underneath here, kind of show you that. So the undercarriage has 4 Phillips head screws. I think what I'm going to do is take this off the tripod right now, so you can really get up under here with me. Okay, so did something here. Plastic, metal, this is what they're talking about. And as you can see, there's these screws. As it finally focuses in, they have to be removed. Now, they're not torqued down very tough, or tight. So we need to keep that in mind when we put these things back. We don't want to over torque them and strip anything out. Everybody's doing fine during this COVID-19 pandemic. I noticed that when my daughter and I went out yesterday to get the oil for this vehicle, there were a lot of people out and about, but it was good to see a lot of them had masks on. Okay, so here we have little plastic tabs. There's one there, one there, one there, and one there, and kind of something up here. So this pan actually will slide back and then off. And then what I'll do there, I'll just set it off to the side. Now underneath here is the old oil filter, which back in 7/19 I changed the oil. I think it was right before she went back to school. And this is the drain plug, and you can see it. There's a compression washer there. So I will now bring underneath the vehicle an oil catch pan, and I'm going to go ahead and vent this because as the oil fills up this reservoir, it can actually fill up pretty quick. If you don't exit the air, it'll pop on up and make a big mess. But all right. Now, if I remember, this is a 17 millimeter nut, so it needs a 17 millimeter socket, and I got that. So, I've kind of gone over this before. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. So I want to loosen this up. Really what I need to do is set this phone back on the tripod. See if I can bring it back up underneath here for y'all. Huh. Well, I don't know how to show this to you guys. Tell you what, this will be an interesting film. So I'm just going to lay my phone down here and hopefully it'll record this. Now there's a torque. We'll torque these back too. Now, I'm having a hard time loosening that. So what I'm going to do is I'll put a pipe on here. It'll allow me to get a better leverage. There we go. That's all that took. And this thing keeps on magnifying. I don't want it to magnify. Okay. So I loosened it up. I'm going to take my gloves off. Now as this nut comes out, there's about 4 quarts of oil, and it's going to come out, and I want to make sure it doesn't get on the ground, so I place my oil catch basin in the right position. And as I back it out, there's the oil, and it is definitely going in to the catch basin. So while that's doing, it won't take but a few minutes to drain that out. I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about a couple things. Now, on that oil cap that I took off, it said SAE 0W-20. So we went to a local store and purchased 5 US quarts of OW-20 motor oil. So it's a full synthetic, and a lot of these Hondas require that. Now on this bottle, on the side here, I've done a couple things here. If you take a look, there's these little tick marks, and there's number 1, 2, 3, 4, and then of course there wasn't a tick mark there, but I wrote with marker what level it was. So that was 5 quarts. Now the owner manual for this vehicle says I only need 3.9 quarts. So I took my marker, I marked where 3.9 was, and I poured this excess out. What's one thing that's pretty important is they don't want you to overfill these vehicles with motor oil. So by emptying out my excess oil, which I put it in another container that a previous oil change, I did the same thing. So maybe after 4 or 5 oil changes, I'll have enough extra oil that I won't have to buy any new ones. As long as I buy the same type, it's okay to, you know, mix them in there. Same brand, same weight. The other thing I do, of course, we're going to replace the oil filter. And on the back side of the oil filter, there's this rubber gasket. And when we pull off the other oil filter, we want to make sure that gasket doesn't get stuck on the vehicle. So it's a nice flat piece of metal for this to adhere to. Another thing I write on the filters, I'll write the date that I'm doing the oil change, and then the mileage that this next oil change should occur. And at the local parts store, they give you these decals that you can go ahead and write the mileage, and then I'll put that up in the windshield so that she knows when she needs to change this next time out. Okay. Back underneath here, we just have a little drip, and let's go over this oil plug. It has a compression washer on it, and that should be replaced when you do an oil change. So when you torque it down, it compresses. And what I'm going to do on this oil change, I'm just going to reuse the last compressor washer, excuse me. Okay, that's not torqued down quite yet, but the next thing we got to do is get the oil filter off. So I wanted to show you this. This is kind of a oil filter removal device that goes on your socket. And what you do is take off your socket wrench, and it's got a little place for it to fit on there. And for this one, I'm going to have to use an extension to get up underneath there good. Put on the filter and go ahead and loosen it up. Now I'm going to slide the catch basin because I already see oil dripping out. And I will unscrew, let that drain a little bit. Of course, all of it's going into the oil pan. Almost got it. Sometimes I'll use rubber gloves just to keep the oil off my skin, but there are none of them available in the stores anymore because everybody's buying them up for extra protection, PPE, for this virus. So as long as I wash my hands with soap and water after this, I think we'll be just fine. Oops. Okay, so paper towels or a nice towel. What I want to show you is underneath here, this is the metal that I want to make sure is cleaned off when I put the next oil filter back on. Like I said, sometimes the gasket will come off the old filter and be stuck there, and that's not good. Okay, so here's my new oil filter, and even with little drips, I'll just go ahead and start screwing that on. And you really only want to do this like hand tight. You don't want to over torque this thing down. Okay. Now, I'm going to torque that to the specifications in the owner's manual, which I'll share with you here in just a second. We followed all these steps. You remove the drain bolt and washer from the bottom of the engine and drain the oil, which we did in a suitable container. Remove the oil filter and dispose of the remaining oil. Check the filter gasket that is not stuck to the engine's contact surface. If it's stuck, you must attach it. Wipe away any dirt and dust, which you saw me do. You could say apply a light coat of engine oil to the new gasket, but it was still dripping and that got on the gasket, so as I tighten it down. And then of course they're wanting you to put a new washer on the drain bolt and then torque down to 29 foot-pounds, which I'll do shortly here. But the next thing to do is go ahead and put the engine oil in. So what I do is I'll pull the dipstick, because as this oil pours in, there's obviously now air in there, and sometimes that will come out the dipstick, so it drains a little bit better. Okay, so I have a funnel, and since I already know exactly how many quarts I need, which is 3.9, I just have to pour this all in. So I'll take my time and let that drain in there. Of course, that's one benefit of pre-measuring your oil. If you didn't, you might want to mark it on a can, and then as you empty the oil, let's say right there would be 3.9 empty quarts, then you would stop filling it up. But I just like the way this works out a little bit better. Of course, the oil's going in very easily. And just a little bit more. Okay. Now I don't like to get a lot of oil drippings on the engine, so I'll make sure I use my towel to make sure that doesn't happen. I will now go ahead and replace this. Make sure that's good and tight. And put my dipstick back in. But before I do, I'm going to go ahead and wipe off any excess oil so I can do a measurement. Now, the next step is truly to get in the vehicle and start it up. Let it run for a moment. And when it's running, it's going to pump oil into that filter, which takes a small amount of oil. Then you shut your engine off. Your vehicle will be on a nice flat surface. Pull your dipstick out, wipe it off, re-enter it, pull it out, and then check your level. Now on these dipsticks, it's kind of tough to see the level, but what it is this area right here, everybody, is where they want the oil level to be at. This is going to be high, this will be low. And of course, I see a sheen of oil. Even what I put in there, I know that I got the right level in there. So we will now kind of end the video, but I'll go back down and torque that oil pan, drain nut or lug, bolt, and then replace the metal pan, torque those 4 Phillip head screws down, and remove the vehicle off the ramp. So it only takes a few minutes to do an oil change. There are some obviously safety issues when you're using the ramps. You just want to make sure that you go ahead and have everything on a good solid surface. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, and be safe. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, I recommend strongly going to a 15-minute oil lube stores. There's plenty of them around town, and for the money and the hassle, it's well worth it. But you know, one thing before I do go though, like, what do you do with the old oil? So here's an empty can. Obviously I just poured that out. What I'll do is I'll pour it back into this can, and then I'll take it to a recycling, or I'll just leave it in here and transport this back to it, and then they're more than happy to take the oil back. Don't want to go ahead and pour that down into any sort of sewers, or that will damage the environment, and that is a bad thing. Okay, y'all have a good day. Hope you enjoyed this video. Take care.